Hey guys, I know, it's been a while. I haven't uploaded a video in a couple weeks, but in my defense, there really wasn't much that I wanted to see that I, also wanted to review. And there's also the fact that, literally like a week before, I ended up getting sick, so even if I could, I literally physically could not actually make a video because I was too busy being sick. Plus, I literally just had finals on the way. Like, I was just about to finish my finals for the end of the year, so there's also that too. So, yeah, that made me a little bit busy. So now I'm making up for it here with a review of Army of the Dead. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Hey, Owen, how come you don't review something like, I don't know, A Quiet Place Part 2 or Cruella? Those are actually more recent movies. Well, listen here, Sonny Jim. There are specific reasons why I'm covering Army of the Dead now. One, as I already previously mentioned, I was sick. So obviously, of course, I did see the movie when it came out on its opening release. Only problem was I couldn't review it because, like I said before, I was sick. Secondly, I do intend to do a review of A Quiet Place Part 2. I'm not planning on doing a review of Cruella because I'm just tired of the Disney live action remakes. Like, anytime there's a new one, unless there's actually something in there that legitimately interests me in actually seeing it, I'm probably not going to review it. So yeah, sorry Emma Stone, I know you're a great actress, but you just really couldn't entice me with this one. I'm sorry. But yeah, so moving on along, Army of the Dead. Now, Army of the Dead is actually Zack Snyder's first big feature film that he's actually done since 2017. The reason why I'm saying since 2017 because technically aspects of his cut of Justice League were utilized in the theatrical cut, albeit it was completely destroyed, and obviously it was fundamentally changed to fit the theatrical cut, but you know what I mean. This is the first legit new film that Zack Snyder has done in at least 4 years. And it's really interesting the fact that he returns back to the zombie genre because, for those unaware, Zack Snyder actually had his directorial debut when he did the 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead, which is probably my favorite zombie film of all time. Well, not the remake itself, but the original 1978 film directed by the late, great George A. Romero, who actually died on the, about 39 years after Dawn of the Dead released. Which is really tragic and sad because I'm pretty sure he also died the same year Tobe Hooper did, who was the director of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist. But, getting off topic. But yeah, Zack Snyder ended up making his directorial debut with the 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead, and from a screenplay that was written by James Gunn. Yeah, the man that would later go on to do films like Guardians of the Galaxy and The Suicide Squad. They would both end up getting their starts with Dawn of the Dead. Well, technically James Gunn wrote the screenplays to the live-action Scooby-Doo movies previously, but you know what I mean. So, yeah, it's actually really interesting the fact that we have Zack Snyder returning to a genre that he hasn't visited in at least 17 years. And it's really interesting the fact that, because the combination here for Army of the Dead is really unique, because the basic premise for Army of the Dead, for those who do not know, follows a group of people who try to pull an Ocean's 11 style heist where they try to get out $50 million out of an abandoned casino in Las Vegas. But they have to do it in a zombie-infested wasteland. You see, when the zombie apocalypse ended up breaking out, it didn't spread beyond Las Vegas. The government was actually able to step in and they were able to contain the infection to just the borders of Las Vegas. That's it. No other places ended up getting an infection or whatever. It was mainly Las Vegas that had to deal with the zombie apocalypse. Now, around a few decades later, after the city is pretty much a war-torn wasteland just filled with zombies, like as stated previously, a group of people would come together to try and take $50 million from an abandoned facility. Okay, first of all, I'm going to add some positives for the movie before I get into sort of the more nitpicky elements of the movie. I do want to state up front and state that I did really enjoy this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. Really interesting the fact that you take two genres that normally don't have any business being together, like zombies and a heist film, and you put it together. And yet somehow it was able to really work surprisingly well. Another thing I really want to point out is this is actually the very first film that Zack Snyder, in addition to directing, he also served as writer and producer on the project. This is actually the first ever of his projects that he also served as his own director of photography. Like, this was his first ever movie in which he actually got to serve in the role of DP. And I think he did a really good job because, obviously, of course, like or hate Zack Snyder's movies, one thing that you cannot deny is that in terms of his visual storytelling, he is fantastic at visuals. Like, the opening 15 minutes of this movie is just sort of this silent movie that's playing while Viva Las Vegas is playing in the background. And it's all about the beginnings of the zombie infection and basically what you need to know and essentially what happened to Las Vegas. Which was really, really well done. Another thing that I really love is that how Zack Snyder was able to assemble this really great international cast of characters. Like, obviously, of course, you got Dave Bautista mainlining it, but you also got other great people involved, like Ella Purnell, Omari Hardwick, if I remember correctly, Ana de la Reguera. I'm sorry if I butchered that in the comment. If I butchered that, just let me know in the comments because I probably did. You also got Notaro. You also got Hiroyuki Sanada is involved as well. You got Matthias Schweighöfer. I think that's his name. He's German. And a few more people are involved in the Garret's Dillahunt is also involved in the project too. There's a few amount of people that are involved in this project. So I really like the fact that Zack Snyder was able to assemble this really great international cast. And while I'm on the subject of Notaro, for those who are unaware, one of the original actors that was cast, Chris D'Ella, actually filled in the role that Notaro did because he was cast as the pilot, Peters. But in 2020, when a bunch of misconduct allegations officially was released against Ella, around August or September last year, Zack Snyder actually brought in Notaro to actually fill in and to replace Ella. Having obviously, of course, this was during the height of the you-know-what pandemic, so unfortunately, she couldn't interact with the cast and crew, but what they were able to do was that they were able to use this giant green screen set, and they were able to essentially film around her, and they, of course, she, of course, acted off of a tennis ball, obviously, but the way that she's just seamlessly just inserted into the movie, it legitimately feels like the fact that she's there with the cast and the crew, just interacting and playing off of them. And I thought she was great. She had a lot of really funny, great lines of dialogue. Although probably my favorite character was Mr. Schweighöfer's character, the safecracker. I thought he was really funny, and I thought he was really well done. In fact, apparently people liked him a lot so much because in addition to the fact that this potentially might get a sequel, we are also going to be getting two prequel projects involving Army of the Dead. One is an actual prequel movie that focuses on Mr. Schweighöfer's character prior to the events of Army of the Dead, entitled Army of Thieves, which he actually directed, which was really cool. And anime-style Netflix series will also be releasing entitled Army of the Dead Lost Vegas, which will focus on a variety of characters that was seen in the film, such as Dave Bautista's character, Notaro's character, Omari Hardwick, Ana de la Reguera. Again, sorry if I butchered that. But they're also able to fill it up with a bunch of new cast members who you may recognize, like Joe Manganiello, who played Flash Thompson in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. He also played Deathstroke in Justice League as well. You also got Christian Slater is also part of the cast, alongside Harry Lennox. Vanessa Hudgens is in it. Ray Porter is in it. Nolan North is apparently in it, which I'm like, hey, you don't need to sell me any further. Nolan North's a part of it. I'm good with that. But yeah, this is really, really fascinating about how literally before the movie even was released, Netflix already greenlit both of these projects. And that's really, really cool because this shows the amount of faith that they have in Zack Snyder and the world that he created with Army of the Dead. Like, that's really something really, really cool, and I guarantee that was something that Warner Brothers is probably quaking in their boots over. They're like, they were able to do the one thing that we probably couldn't, which, honestly, that's one thing that I really appreciate Netflix for. At least they let Zack just be Zack, and they're giving him the amount of projects that he needs in order to be able to properly flesh out this world, which is a very fascinating world and a really visually fantastic looking world, by the way. But this does, of course, lead into some of the more nitpicky critiques that I do have with this movie. For one thing, it's the runtime. As you guys know, Zack Snyder likes making movies, and he likes making long movies. Granted, it's nowhere near as long as the Snyder Cut of Justice League, but at nearly 2.5 hours, that's a lot to ask for some people, because I could see it maybe being like 2:15, 2:20 max, but nearly 2 hours and 30 minutes, that's a lot to ask for, specifically when it comes to the actual movie itself, because it takes around 40 minutes to actually get the entire crew together and to inform them of the actual heist themselves before they actually venture into Las Vegas. So that is definitely one thing, the fact that I really wish, really wish the fact that the runtime could have been trimmed a little bit. Another thing is that there were some visual effect shots that I thought probably weren't properly convincing. For the most part, the effects are relatively well done. Like, the zombie makeup is absolutely fantastic. And I really hope that I believe that there might have been some miniature work, because some of these shots look absolutely fantastic. But then there will also be other shots that will make me go, this feels like a cutscene from like a PlayStation 3 game or something like that. But yeah, and then of course there is the fact that the movie tries to be to have a lot more meaning to it. Like, there's a lot more heart and emotion to it. And while obviously the effort I definitely applaud, the result though, not so much, because even though these are all really fantastic characters, like, I wasn't really rooting for them in the same way the fact that I root for like somebody like Rocky, for example, because or Spider-Man or another superhero that I can think of, because I really don't root for them in the same way the fact that I do for those heroes, because I don't know, it just feels like the fact that there's something just missing from it, I don't know if that's just me. I'm pretty sure a lot of people obviously connected with these characters a lot more than I did, but I don't know, they're just, obviously, of course, I didn't want any of these characters to die or anything like that, but it's just, well, one maybe, because he was definitely the jerk villain of the group, but yeah, I just didn't really connect with these characters on probably the level that it really wanted me to. But hey, I don't blame Zack Snyder or any of the actors for that. That's just me personally. But yeah, overall, Army of the Dead was definitely a really, really fun movie. Definitely, it is really amazing to see Zack Snyder being able to do something as big like this, because this was not a cheap movie to make. This thing cost around like $70 to $90 million, which is a lot of money, because that's not something to be scoffed at, because that is legitimately a lot of money. And the fact that Netflix is putting so much faith in Zack Snyder for this movie is something that I really got to commend them for, because obviously, of course, in addition to the prequel projects that were already announced prior to the film's release back in September of last year, they also ended up releasing a behind-the-scenes making-of special that showed how the movie itself ended up getting made, which was really cool. And they even did a little thing called the Zack Snyder Film School on the Netflix Film Club YouTube account, which is sort of Zack Snyder just running by a couple of things about like breakdowns of scenes and other things like that for the movie, which is definitely really cool, because that is a lot of stuff that you're pumping into this, and it's definitely a lot more marketing than Warner Brothers gave to the Snyder Cut. So yeah. Overall, Army of the Dead was a really great time. Definitely do recommend if you are a fan of heist films, if you're a fan of zombie films, or if you're just a fan of Zack Snyder. If you're just a fan of Zack Snyder and his films, I definitely do recommend the movie. If you're expecting it to, of course, if you're expecting it to mean something deeper, then you're probably going to be disappointed. But as a fun movie about a heist set in a zombie apocalypse, it was actually alright. So I'm going to give Army of the Dead a 7.5. I thought it was really good, really entertaining. But yeah, so tune in next time where I will hopefully be covering A Quiet Place Part 2. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and yeah, as always, stay gold.